Farhan, great to see you. I hope the family and you are safe and healthy and you've got your jabs.
Yeah, thank you, Hrishikay. We are well. I hope you are too and your family as well.
So far, so good. Thanks for checking in. Now, real life boxers have always been mostly from underprivileged backgrounds. If you see in the West,
Yeah,
Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, or even Mary or Vijinder here,
yeah,
they're not
yeah.
born into great wealth.
No, no.
Some of them abroad have even come from very disturbed backgrounds, which is why they say Mike Tyson ear biting and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, you were obviously aware of that, but how much did you put that into your character? Because this is a boy from Dongri, which is a lot of our mafia has come from that area.
Yeah, the thing is that it's you're surviving on muscle, and like, it's absolutely true what you're saying. I mean, when you look at the history of boxing, it really is not a rich man's sport in terms of you don't have people coming from that background. It's people who really have had a, a raw hand dealt to them, from poverty, from crime, from absolutely traumatic backgrounds, who've had only themselves and this belief in their ability to be able to fight their way to the top and to a better life, who managed to succeed in it. But at the same time, one is having the strength or having the natural ability to be a fighter. The other aspect also is that right encounter with the person who can discover that in you, or who can, like how Cus D'Amato was with Mike Tyson, for example. There's a Mike Tyson during Cus D'Amato and there's a Mike Tyson after Cus D'Amato. They're two completely different people. And you hear him talk about that as well. I mean, if you've seen any of his recent interviews when
True.
he's spoken, and that aspect of somebody being able to discover that in you and channelize that and use that energy and use that, if you want to call it, just that kind of rage that you have against the world, to somehow make you a better person, to make your life better, whether it's for you, for your family. Aziz comes from exactly that same background. I mean, he's someone who is content with his place in life. He's a bhai, and he collects money for his boss. And he thinks, I mean, he's the catch whiskers. I mean, he's got everything going for him. He doesn't think his life can get any better. Someday, maybe he'll inherit his boss's business, and that'll be that he'll have arrived. But it takes people like Ananya, it takes people like Coach Nana Prabhu, played by Pareshji in the film, for him to understand that there's more to life than just this kind of little ostrich-like view that he had of it.
You know, Hussein Zaidi, who wrote Black Friday, he's
Hmm.
also been a crime reporter for decades,
Yeah,
tells
yeah.
me that Dongri and Nagpada, apart from being dangerous in one manner, are also very family like in another manner. I mean, did you see the other side of
Oh,
Nagpada and
absolutely,
Dongri when
man.
you were filming there, for
Oh, no, no,
example?
absolutely. And that aspect must be spoken about more. We were shooting there, and obviously, I mean, shooting in Mumbai is never easy in any case. Rakesh wanted everything to be on location, and thankfully so, because I mean, there's a certain energy that comes when you're shooting in a real life place. And when we were shooting in Nagpada, you never felt the need to like want to go back to your van, because all the houses were open to you. You were invited for tea constantly to everyone's homes. You were invited in for a snack. You were invited to come in and cool off. You meet the whole family, from the grandmother to the grandchild. It was absolutely incredible. We shot this song there, called Begani Shadi Mein Abdullah Diwana, which is shot there. And the entire neighborhood has joined in on that song. So I mean, apart from this little core coterie that you have of
Absolutely.
Mrunal, myself, and Hussein, and maybe about like 15 dancers, everybody else that you see in that song is from that neighborhood, right? They were just out there. We gave them a few props and said, "Do your own thing," and everyone had an absolute blast, And it was great. It was great. It felt like you were shooting with friends, and that was amazing.
So now I take it that you're more popular than Imran Hashmi in those areas.
Um, I really don't know what that means, but I'm
No, no, man. Imran Hashmi is the rage there, dude.
no,
I
no,
mean, I'm
I'm
telling you.
not denying that, but I don't know what you mean by you're more popular, and I don't know
No, no,
what that means.
you've embedded yourself in their hearts. Is what I mean.
Well,
It's just.
let's hope so. Yes.
Let's hope so. Correct. So Will Smith was talking about one of the trickiest parts of filming Ali, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you've seen the film, as all of us Ali fans have, was keeping cameras out of the frame because boxers are constantly moving, floats like a butterfly, stings like
Yeah.
a bee.
Yeah.
How do you guys handle that?
Well, I mean, the thing is that there's two sides to it actually. One is that because it's when you're boxing, it's a televised event. You know, to us, you can also get away with having a certain kind of camera in frame because it's not unnatural to see a camera in frame. Obviously, it can't be a film camera, and it can't be like some DOP who's with his with his eye to the eyepiece behind it, because that's not how sporting events are shot. But so you have to be smart about it. And Jay and Rakesh and Daryl, who choreographed the fights. I mean, Daryl is the guy who choreographed the fights in Ali. We had the same guy on board. So I mean, his experience was phenomenal, and you would imagine that like it would be easier to shoot this with multiple cameras, but boxing doesn't allow you that because it is a contact sport, and you can't cheat that beyond a certain point. So you'll get caught on some camera angle if the camera is not, if it's not all functioning seamlessly. And Daryl was so categorical when he came in, and this was new for me because I mean we are used to like doing film action. I've done it to a certain extent, not as much as Tufan, of course, but I've done some action, and you never really hit the other person. There's always a little window uh, of air between. There's some space there. But in this, Daryl, his philosophy was, I'm going to teach you how to take a punch, not fake a punch. Right. So the fact is that you are getting hit every single time, but he's teaching you how you can take it without really hurting yourself. So it was an absolutely incredible thing. And then he just broke it down, with Jay and Rakesh as to how we're going to shoot it. And I mean, they know what they're doing.
So I did an interview with Shibani in between,
Hmm.
in which she told me that you guys adopted a lovely pet just outside your training area. How cool was that? I didn't delve into it in
Yeah.
that interview because it
Right.
wasn't fair, because it was about Made in Heaven and other stuff.
Yeah. Sure.
But tell me about that. How cocool is that? So what, you just came out of training and who set eyes upon
No,
the pet?
Shibani did. To be honest, Shibani did. There was a litter that was born while training was on there, and we came out, and she'd been seeing this one little pup every single day. There were about 4 or 5 of them, and then I think different people came in and adopted a few, and then there were about 2 or 3 left. And it's always tough here. Like, how do you pick one? You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. Somehow Shibani had this kind of a connection with this one pup, and she over 2 or 3 days was telling me, like, let's take one of these home. And at that point, just given how hectic everything was, I was like, I don't know if we'll have the time to be able to like because you need time with the puppy, like for them to kind of think of it as their home and not just another shelter. Um, and she was like, she absolutely felt like very strongly like a connection with this pup. So on day 3, we were like, let's not talk about it anymore because we can keep analyzing this till the cows come home. Let's just pick up this pup and leave. So that's what we did. We just picked up this little pup who has now grown into a fine young woman called Tyson.
That is the sweetest offshoot of Tufan. That's so lovely. I'm going to hang on to that story. So I'm an expert in the gaining weight department, so it's very easy for me. But I take it that a lot of other people like you have slight bit of problem putting on weight. So this physical transformation thing, I mean, Milkha was a totally different rigor. Boxing, I
Yeah,
know, is
sure.
a different rigor. But that stuff, which is putting on the paunch and this and
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
most fit guys tell me, since I can't experience it myself, they tell me that they reach a point when they're not moving. They're
yeah.
just there. Did that
No, that
happen with
is
you?
absolutely true. Absolutely true. The first 4 or 5 kgs come on pretty quick because you've also been like, no, I won't say you're not starving your body, but you're keeping yourself away from things that you could easily put on weight with. So when your body suddenly starts getting that, the first 4 or 5 kgs come on really quickly, and then the needle just stops. And I because obviously your metabolism is at a certain level that it's functioning. Also, your mind is refusing to let go because you've trained so hard to be in like in this incredible shape. So that's a bit of a battle. And I was stuck for a long, long time. And just I don't know, somehow you have to find it, find new methods and new means of being able to push yourself across that. But it's not easy. That was the toughest part actually, in terms of which look was most difficult for me to achieve. Was the one where I had to be completely like out of shape.
I'm loving the soundtrack. In fact, this morning there's a wonderful video of Todun Tak, which has
Yeah,
boxing clubs and
yeah,
boxers,
yes,
who just come from the remotest corners of India, and most of them are
yeah,
female boxers. So
yeah,
one for Mard there, and honestly, ever since Zoya's film, one always thinks of areas like Dongri, areas like Nagpada, becoming the hotbed of hip hop and rap and having very strong voices. So there's a bit of that. Then
yeah.
there's Shankar Ehsaan Law and the anthemic feel. So you've been enjoying the soundtrack, and there are some new names, relatively new names in there. There's Dub Sharma. There's this guy, this rapper who calls himself Devil or D Evil. I don't know how he pronounces it. So quite
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, devil.
Yeah. So tell
Yeah,
me
yeah. I
about
mean,
your thoughts.
um, yeah. I mean, I mean, the thing is like when you look at the history of hip hop and you look at the history of boxing, there is a synergy there. Because I mean, they come from the backgrounds that these artists come from, or the boxer comes from, is again very very similar. There is again that um, kind of a denied privileged back. You know what I mean? You're coming from hard backgrounds again. Hip hop, the artist is again someone who's kind of channelized their feelings of rage, their feelings of injustice, their feelings of inequality into music. So somehow they've always gone kind of hand in hand, hip hop and boxing. There's been an incredible synergy between the two. So that felt very natural as an extension of the soundtrack on this film. And So that's where Devil came into play, and Dub Sharma. Dub Sharma actually worked on a couple of tracks on Gully Boy as well. So
Okay.
he was someone that I did know. Devil was somebody who was recommended to me by Ankur Tiwari, who you know. He recommended him to me, and I saw a couple of his videos that were out on YouTube, and great attitude, great voice, and just one inherent swag in the way he sings, or raps and or rhymes, whatever you want to call it. So it just felt right. And then yeah, of course, SEL like come in and do the rest with their just. I mean, they're just like they have their own thing going. Yeah, you can't like. I mean, you don't get into that. You know what I mean? It's just they're
They
just
just come and do
absolutely.
their
Yeah,
magic.
they just come and do their magic basically. And then also there's this new composer duo, Samuel and Akanksha, who've done one of the songs. And Again, just really talented duo, husband and wife, who've created the Tum Aa Gaye Ho song, that's done by them. And just an incredible melody that I like very much. And was quite happy to have it in the film.
What is Mrunal's biggest strength, Farhan? I mean, I see her opposite Ritik, opposite you. You guys, are unassuming. You'll shrug your shoulders and say, so what? But for her, it is a big deal. I mean, these are people she's grown up watching, you're seasoned actors, and she's such a natural. What to use her biggest strength?
I think to start with her relatability, she's just she comes across as a very real person when you see her. So whether I mean her work, I in Super 30, for example, that she's done with Ritik, because you just mentioned that. There's something. It's she's believable, and she again. I mean, in this film, you'll see what she's done, and the way she just kind of has made this character her own. I just cannot imagine anybody else having done it the way she's done it. And Again, I mean, she's I think 4 films old now, has a long, long journey ahead of hers, and I just wish her all the best, and I hope she stays, as enthusiastic about film as she is right now.
You know, most coaches and their wards in cinema are normally fashioned like a father-son relationship. I'm very keen to know what your relationship, your character's relationship with Mr. Rawal's character is.
It is that. I mean, eventually with any coach, I mean, it inherently becomes that. Because I mean, if you look at a father-son relationship, I mean, of course, there's also your father is on some level the first man that you idolize, and he um, is is one man who teaches you about what's right and what's wrong, and your belief system comes from this person, and your ideology is formed by based on what your parents' ideology is and your father's ideology is. And somehow the coach inhabits that same space, because his what he believes a boxer is, or what he believes boxing represents and what boxing means, is what becomes your belief. So these are, again, they're like things that are handed down to you and passed down to you, and that's purely a father-son relationship. And you look up to him as you would to your father. He is your mentor. He's somebody who who you trust, who you love, who gives you freedom to express, yet at the same time keeps you on a tight leash. So it is that relationship.
Real life boxers that you've learnt about. I mean, all of us 90s generation boys, we know Joe Frazier and we know Sugar
Yeah.
Ray Leonard and, Muhammad Ali and, that variety. But
Yeah.
anybody new you came across and you suddenly said, wow?
Actually, a lot of documentaries that I watched about boxers when I was just preparing for it, only just to keep, you know what I mean? It just takes you into that world. Huh? So, I mean, like, I would watch like Manny Pacquiao, just
Filipino guy.
incredible. Yeah, I mean, firstly, incredible fighter, just an incredible story, of again, just what his beginnings are and what he's managed to achieve. Phenomenal. So him, Triple G is another guy, just perfected that jab to a whole other level. I mean, he was like I mean, there was like a thing I was watching where he would probably get in almost 80% more jabs that actually mattered, than any other boxer in his weight category. I mean, like every time he threw a jab out, he'd end up connecting. He'd just find that right moment to be able to throw it and do it, which was amazing. So him, and then the Gypsy King, of course, is another. So I mean, yeah, I discovered all these people, but I mean, I grew up, like you're saying. I mean, of course, like Ali was like just the absolute greatest of all time, still is, and that's because he was just so much more than the sport here. He really was.
My last question is about Milkha ji. I know both Mehra and you have been pretty badly hit with his passing. Just your thoughts on the great man, heartfelt thoughts.
Um, it's difficult to sum it up in any like a coherent, complete kind of way, because there's so many emotions attached to him. But he was a gem of a guy. Large-hearted, generous, loving, uh, happy, spread positivity, spread hope, spread optimism everywhere he went, inspired, motivated you, and just an absolutely incredible guy. I feel fortunate to, I mean, apart from having played him in a film, that's one aspect of it, but I mean, to have gotten to know him so well, to be accepted into his family the way they accepted me, to be a part of their lives, to just have this connection with them, all of them, they're just beautiful people. And he will be missed. It's wonderful that he had a long life. He had I mean, apart from an absolutely tragic and traumatic beginning, that he managed to put all that aside, to put that hate aside, the anger aside, the sense of betrayal, which I'm sure he must have felt, aside, and to lead this life guided by love. It's that aspect of it is so inspirational in itself. To be able to get over those wounds that were inflicted on you, to forgive people for it. That in itself is amazing. He was an absolute gem of a person.
like you are. Thank you for your time, my friend.
Cheers. Thank you.
And my love for you will make sure that I watch it as soon as Amazon Prime
Thank you,
unleashes
Hrishi.
it on the 16th.
Thank you, Hrishi.
Thank you.
94.3 Radio 1.
One world, your station.